Hey guys, I'm going to go to three worst teams in college football. And I don't mean the three worst teams like Akron or Kent State. I'm talking about as relative to expectations. And coming at number three is Florida State. And Florida State done something truly remarkable this year. They had no expectations. Then they managed to create some high expectations, and they managed to ruin that. Because after they beat Alabama and won the two FCS games, they all made it all the way to number eight in AP polls on top of the world. Then they had that overtime loss to Virginia, and then lost to Miami, Pittsburgh, and then they embarrassing loss to Stanford, and you just can't have that. Mike Norvell went 2-10 last year, and I was a little shocked that he didn't get fired. Florida State came out and announced that they was going to wait till the end of the year to decide, which tells me that's code word for they don't have the money. They're trying to find it right now. But it's just been all in all ugly time in Tallahassee the last couple of seasons, and that's going to bring me to number two. And I think number two is the Florida Gators. And the Florida Gators had for dark horse national championship expectations coming into the season. They had DJ Lagway that could have been a borderline Heisman contender, and you managed to ruin that. Florida had the embarrassing loss to Miami on the road. He lost to South Florida at home. He lost by 17 points to Texas A&M on the road. And Mississippi State should have won that game last week. They had the ball in your territory after you botched the previous possession before that. We're on 3rd and 1. You done a bootleg and got sacked for like a 7-yard loss. You had the fans in your stadium chanting "Fire Billy," and all in all, it's just an ugly situation. The Gators did finally pull the trigger on that, so at least the nightmare is over for Slick Billy. But all in all, Florida's got to come at number two relative to expectations. And then coming at number one for me is going to be the Clemson Tigers. And Clemson had that loss to LSU to start the season. And they had hopes for winning the ACC and winning the college football playoff. You had Caleb Klubnik come back. You had pretty much whole offense minus Phil Maffa. You have an NFL defensive front, and all in all, the defense is supposed to be good. And you managed to botch this. Your record's like 3-4. You had the ugly loss to Syracuse. You lost to Georgia Tech in a game where I think you outgained them, and you had moments where you could have won that game until you just didn't. And Clemson, Dabo Swinney had that press conference where he came out and was talking about how if you compare Clemson to all the rest of the teams, what Clemson has done, how the expectation, like why should they have those expectations? Well, you created those expectations. When you got to Clemson, you said the national championship was the expectation. Now you're not meeting those expectations. So what do you expect the fan base to do? When you tell them you're going to win national championships and you don't deliver, that is on you as a coach. So you got to get that fixed. And I wonder if the Clemson's best days are maybe behind them. You start looking at recruiting and start to trend down. I think last year the year before was all the way in the 20s. After getting top 10 classes. So I think that high end talent is kind of eluding Clemson, and they don't rely on the transfer portal. I mean, they kind of dabbled in it just a little bit this past season, but compared to other teams, they just don't do it. So they're going to make a change and start maybe using the portal to supplement. Because you could have seen if Clemson could have maybe added a couple offensive line pieces, but to move the football or get a running back. There's certainly room for Clemson to. I think some small changes could turn them into a potential national championship team because they do have some key pieces that I like. But you got to rely on the portal at least a little bit. When everybody else is doing it, you're gonna have to get on board. It's a changing game. And when the portal first came out, NIL wasn't the biggest fan of it. But you can't be left behind because you're too stubborn to change with the other teams. So that's my three teams for worst as far as meeting expectations this year. Thank y'all for watching.